The void frequency.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's me, your guide from the dark side, Dawson Richard, with a brand new intro. But that isn't the only thing new coming to this podcast. Firstly, let me just say, hey, how you guys doing? It's been a while. I hope you all are having an amazing day, and if not, I hope it starts going your way real soon. Now, like I said in this Halloween episode, I'm going to take some time to explain a few things and reveal a few things, but firstly, I'd like to apologize for the huge hiatus that I went on. I had some stuff come up at the end of summer. I was going to deal with that. September was when I was supposed to come back, but it ended up being really hard to just sit down and start making these again. Like, I just kind of lost the magic I had. Like, I lost my touch with sitting down and editing podcast episodes. And I'm not gonna lie, I had people come up to me and tell me some of my more recent episodes were kind of lazy, and the thing is you're so quick to want to throw that off to the side and be like, well, no, that's not true, I'm doing my best, fuck you, dude. But I sat down and I actually listened to them, and I realized wow, these are considerably lower quality than my older episodes. And so I had to sit down and I had to start reevaluating, okay, what is it that was in my old episodes that I need to start doing again. So hopefully this episode feels a little bit more like my older OG ones, but all the October stuff happened, and I just got kind of busy, and before I knew it, I had people coming up to me and they hold me at gunpoint in back alleys and shit, and they're like, when's the next fucking episode of the void frequency? But time did get away from me. So for that, I do apologize. Thank you all for being so patient. And secondly, good Lord, I just want to thank you guys for being here and supporting me along the way. And in case you all didn't know, this is going to be the last episode of Season 1. So congrats to us for getting through an entire season of creepy tales, horrific murders, and unexplained mysteries. But in all honesty, when I first started making this podcast, this was just something that I was doing for fun. I just kind of wanted to talk about creepy topics, and people told me that I had a radio voice. So I was like, why can't I just take that and put it on a platform? Maybe people want to hear about stuff like this. So I just kind of put it up there for fun. I did not expect half as many people tuning in as I do now. So thank you to all of you, all of my listeners, ladies, gentlemen, whatever. Just even if you're just starting, right? So if you listened to the Sentinelese tribe all the way back at the beginning of this year, or if you're just now joining for the new episode, thank you, okay? Your support and your positive feedback has made the Void Frequency what it is today, and it has given me confidence and drive to continue this show. So thank you, everyone. Now for all the good stuff. So as you all know, I said I would be introducing some new stuff for the Void Frequency, and boy, do I have some surprises for you guys. As you all heard, I have my very own unique, copyrighted, trademark intro with accompanying voice acting, so that was really cool. Thanks so much to Mouth Almighty and Augusto Diniz for that. You're going to hear some other cool stuff here in a second done by them, and when the episode ends, awesome guys. I appreciate the music and the voice work that they both did for me. But I'll just let you stumble across those little surprises when you get there. Another big surprise that I've been wanting to unveil is that I will be introducing guest stars. A lot more, actually. I know that Season 1, we had my wife come on for a Tall and Slender Man episode, but we're going to have way more guest stars coming up. And there's some other surprises within Season 2, but I won't spoil too much of it. I'll let you guys get to those when you get to those. But don't worry, there's still going to be plenty of solo episodes with me. But for those of you who enjoy hearing other people's input, there's going to be a lot for you. But with all of those huge announcements out of the way, you guys are probably like, yo, dude, shut the fuck up. We're here to talk about fucking murders, ghosts, and you guys are sick. We're going to move on to today's terrifying tale. Y'all don't come here to hear me talk about this bullshit. You want the nitty gritty, the down and dirty. But anyway, without further ado, let's get right into today's story.
The void frequency has content that some viewers may find graphic, disturbing, or unsettling. Listener discretion is advised. You have been warned.
6 people were killed in an awful mass murder.
He came, he opened the door, and he was screaming, "Come on, help me. Somebody shot my mother and father."
Okay.
We also had hordes of flies that would appear within 2 rooms. And no matter how many times we would kill them, they would reappear.
Picturesque town of Amityville, New York, home to the world's most famous haunted house.
I believe that there is a such thing as evil, and I was a victim of that.
So I had been searching for the perfect way to finish out season 1, right? And I went through so many fucking options. I thought about finishing out my rough draft on the Boston Strangler. I tried to do some research on voodoo, but nothing felt right. Like, nothing really popped out to me. It was, like, all boring shit. So I went through some of my old suggestions from fans and some people, and there was one that just kept popping up, right? The Amityville Horror. And I knew a little on the subject, but the more I looked into it, the more excited I got, right? I had to actually, like, dig to find this shit. And that kind of, like, called back to, like, my older episodes when I was, like, when I was, like, sitting down, like, researching the shit out of stuff. And I was like, hey, this is it. And there's so many cool little, like, details and, like, twists and turns in the stories about Amityville. So, as I said, what the hell? Let's dive in and talk about the Amityville Horror. So our story begins on November 13th, 1974, Henry's Bar in Amityville. It's 6:30 on a Wednesday. Most people are getting off work and looking for a cold drink. But nobody inside the bar could have been prepared for what happened next. 23-year-old Ronald DeFeo Jr. entered the bar, shaken and terrified. "You've got to help me. I think my mother and father have been shot," he yelled. DeFeo and a small group of people went to his home at 112 Ocean Avenue, which was located near the bar. As they approached the looming house, they noticed something. It was quiet. Too quiet. So the groups made their way into the dark house and began to search the rooms. But what they found was too terrible to fathom. Inside the home, DeFeo and the bar patrons found the dead bodies of the DeFeo parents. A bullet hole and a dried stream of blood were visible on the father's back. Luisa's body was buried beneath a blanket. One of the group, DeFeo's friend Joe Yeswit, made an emergency call to the Suffolk County Police Department. Suffolk County Police, may I help you?
Huh?
This is Suffolk County Police. May I help you?
We have a shooting here. DeFeo.
Sir, what is your name?
Joey Yeswit.
Can you spell that?
Yeah. Yeswit.
Alright, sir. What is your phone number?
I don't even know if it's here. I don't have a phone number here.
Okay, where are you calling from?
It's in Amityville. Call it the Amityville Police, and it's right off Ocean Avenue in Amityville.
Austin?
Ocean Avenue.
Ocean Avenue. Off of where?
It's right off Merrick Road. Ocean Avenue.
Merrick Road. Got it. What's the problem, sir?
It's a shooting.
There's a shooting? Is anybody hurt?
Huh?
Is anybody hurt?
Yeah, it's everybody's dead.
What do you mean, everybody's dead?
They're all dead.
But it wasn't just DeFeo's parents who had met a grisly end. His siblings were also found dead in their beds. The victims were DeFeo's 44-year-old father, Ronald DeFeo Sr., his 42-year-old mother, Louise DeFeo, and his 4 siblings, 18-year-old Dawn, 13-year-old Allison, 12-year-old Mark, and little John Matthew, who was only 9 years old. All of the victims had been shot with a .35 caliber lever-action Marlin 33-6C rifle around about 3 o'clock in the morning of that day. The DeFeo parents had both been shot twice, while the children had all been killed with single shots. But one of the strangest details of this terrible act is that the murders were speculated to have taken about 15 minutes in total, but the position of the body suggests that none of the victims woke up throughout the whole process. So, Ronald DeFeo Jr., also known as Butch, was the eldest son of the family and its only surviving member. He was taken to the local police station for his own protection after suggesting to police officers at the scene of the crime that the killings had been carried out by a mob hitman, Louis Fellini. However, an interview at the station soon exposed some serious inconsistencies in his version of these events. So the following day, he confesses to carrying out the killings himself, right? All 6 of the victims were found face down in their beds with no signs of a struggle. The police investigation concluded that the rifle had not been fitted with a sound suppressor and had found evidence of sedatives having been administered to the parents and the children. So that's why they were asleep. Like, that's why none of them woke up, right? DeFeo admitted during his interrogation that he had drugged his family, but the neighbors did not report hearing any gunshots being fired, and those who were awake at the time of the murder simply heard the family's sheepdog, Shaggy, barking. And Fellini, the alleged hitman, had an alibi proving that he was out of state at the time of the killings. So basically, DeFeo's fucking caught. It's over. It's done. He's got him. So he tells the detectives that once he started, he just couldn't stop. It went so fast. And he even admitted that he had taken a bath and redressed and detailed, where he had discarded all the evidence, such as, the bloodstained clothes and the rifle itself and all the cartridges. And then he just went to work like usual. So this one, it's weird. Okay, so there's nothing like inherently weird about this one, this part of the story. I do think it's very weird that the rifle wasn't fitted with a suppressor and yet no one from the surrounding area heard it. That's weird to me. You think you would hear fucking 5 gunshots, actually 6, because the father was shot twice, I think. 6 gunshots. Like, you'd think you would hear that. But, the dog clearly heard it because he was barking. But it's just, and there's other details to it too. Like, later on, the thing is, Robert DeFeo's, nothing this guy says can be taken fucking, fully as the truth, because, this guy fucking, on 6 or 7 different occasions changes his story. On one occasion, he says that, his father was, which it is true, his father probably was abusing him and beating him because, there was, a weird divide between the father and Butch. But, he says, that, the father was beating him and he was doing it to save the family, but, that wouldn't explain why he shot all of them. And then the more, recent accounts, he claims that there were, demonic voices and stuff that were telling him to do it. So, he's trying to plead insanity. Shit like that. Nothing really about this part of the story is inherently paranormal to me. Some people try to make it that way. I don't think so. So, that's my view on it. But anyway, needless to say, with all of its occupants murdered, the house at 112 Ocean Avenue soon became available. And during the summer of 1975, George and Kathleen Lutz went to visit 112 Ocean Avenue. It's this beautiful, I don't know if you guys have ever seen pictures of the Amityville house, but it's this beautiful, 3-story Dutch colonial house. And it's, right along a river. It's beautiful. Beautiful house. So, anyway, George Lutz, which is, the dad of the new family, says in this interview that they had looked at, 50 other homes over the months and that they were deciding to comb these households, and then their realtor goes to tell them about the house. She's like, I don't know if I should tell you now or, after you've seen the house, but this was the house that the DeFeo murders took place in. What do you mean, now or after? Tell them as soon as fucking possible. Obviously, don't let them tour the fucking house. Oh, my God. Can you imagine her, touring the whole house, talking about all the cool interior shit, and then just being like, it's a beautiful little Dutch colonial house, isn't it? I mean, just beautiful. Do you have kids? Oh, the kids are just gonna fall in love with this place. I'm telling you, you're gonna fit right in here. So, yeah, just so you know, just so you're aware, a guy did brutally murder his entire fucking family here, but what new house is perfect? Am I right? So, obviously, they were kind of shaken up by it because, who wouldn't be? But see, okay, I don't know though. This is a controversial topic, but I don't know though. But I mean, I've been asked this question before. So would you move into a place that had previous murders? Right? I've talked about this before with people, and think of your answer. Okay, would you move into a place that had previous murders in it? I don't know. Okay, so it's weird because I'm all about spooky shit. Obviously, I have a fucking podcast on paranormal shit. But anyway, I love paranormal and spooky stuff. So the thought of being in a house where something like that happened doesn't how do I say this? It doesn't attract me. I'm not attracted to the thought of that, but I'm not turned off to it. Does that make sense? I'm not oh shit, someone died here? For real? Slap my name in that fucking deed. It also doesn't, like, turn me off to the house, though. Like, I'm not completely unopposed to getting a house just because a murder happened in it. Like, and I think it's interesting. Like, some people, like, won't even fucking consider a house if somebody even, like, died in their sleep. Like, not even, like, a murder. Like, something, like, a really mundane, just, like, nice, simple death. Like, people will be like, it's just... Oh, my goodness. But, and, like, sometimes it's because people are, like, superstitious. And which, like, I get that. Like, some people are really superstitious and don't want any, like, ghosts or spirits haunting the house. Especially after, like, something really grisly, like a mass murder or something like that. But, like, I've known some people who, like, aren't even superstitious. And they just won't consider the house because, like, you know, of the murder. Like, I mean, like I said, I'm not attracted to houses like that. But I'm also not turned off to them. Like, if I go to a house or something and there's just, like, all this shit, like... You know, they did, like, a mass blood orgy in the living room, and they sacrificed animals in the kitchen, and, like, 30 people were killed in the bathroom. Like, I feel like that's, you know, that's probably where I draw the line. Who am I kidding? I'd fucking take that house. Anyway, back to our story. So they take time to discuss the matter over with their kids, Daniel, Missy, and Christopher, right? And after the whole crew is like, yeah, fuck it, we're cool with it, right? George and Kathy decide to purchase 112 Ocean Avenue, feeling like they're going to live, you know, they're going to be able to live with its tragic past. And the Lutz family is set to move in on, the Lutz family is set to move in on December 18th, 1975. So due to the property's pretty grisly past, a friend of George's suggests the house should be blessed by this Catholic priest, right? And so George gets in contact with a Catholic priest by the name of Father Ralph. I'm getting a text message. Goodness gracious. Rude. Doing a podcast. But Father Ralph Pecoraro isn't just a priest, right? He's also a judge with this degree in law from Oxford. So he's a smart guy, right? So Father Pecoraro shows up at the house to start blessing stuff, right? So I thought this was, like, kind of weird, but apparently this isn't totally crazy. Like, the whole blessing houses thing, I thought it was something unique and, like, weird to this case. But from what I've seen, a lot of religious families will actually have priests bless or inspect their house before moving in. So that's kind of cool. The more you know. But anyway, so Father Ralph shows up shortly after the Lutzes. We're in the process of moving in. George Lutz, he says hey to the priest. He, like, greets him. He welcomes him into the house so that the priest can start, like, blessing shit. And as the priest moves through the house, blessing the rooms and saying his prayers or whatever, he eventually found himself in the room that the Lutzes had planned on using as a sewing room. And this deep and disturbing unease overtakes him as he passes through the doorway. Just a sense of evil grips him. So on his way out, George goes to pay him for the blessing, but Father Pecoraro refuses the money. He says, no, you don't charge for this kind of thing, the priest said. George was flattered by the priest's kindness, but of course this kindness turns to confusion when the priest informs George about the disturbing feeling while he was in one of the rooms. And George soon realizes that the room that the priest is describing is going to be their sewing room. And when he explains to Father Pecoraro that it's going to be the sewing room, the priest replies, that's good, as long as no one sleeps in there. And without another word, the priest left. But what the family didn't realize was that the horrors had only begun. Shortly after the house's blessing, strange occurrences began to take place. Ooh, spooky. So one of the first signs of the haunting were the flies. Hundreds of flies would be found inside the house, and no matter how many times the Lutzes would kill them, they would seem to reappear, but in larger numbers. Now, this is already bad enough, but get this, okay? So flies don't really have any major supernatural symbolism, right? Like, I mean, like, other than being nasty little critters and I guess being associated with, like, corpses and rotting stuff. But listen to this, right? Hear me out. Tinfoil hat time, conspiracy time. One of Satan's names in the Bible is the Lord of Flies. Boom. Not so harmless anymore, is it? Boom. Kathy, the mother of the family, also reported on multiple occasions that she was being touched on the hands by some unseen force, and this would happen throughout the day, when she was sitting somewhere, and even when she was sleeping at night. And we've got all kinds of, like, other regular paranormal stuff, right, popping up, like cold spots and getting an uneasy feeling and just general overall just, you know, spooky fucking atmosphere, right? Well, one of the scariest and most surreal forms that the haunting took was noises in the night. So the entire family reported hearing noises that would wake them in the dead of night. Loud banging, slamming doors, and even footsteps running up and down the stairs at night. But one account comes from George Lutz himself. He claims that he heard banging coming from downstairs, as if the front door was being flung open and slammed shut again and again and again. And so he rushes downstairs in the dark to investigate, but what he finds is a locked door with the family dog sleeping soundly in front of it. Another strange effect that the house had on people, specifically Kathy, was that it made her very tired and lethargic. She didn't want to leave the house most of the time, even if it was for the simplest errands and chores, and it was almost as if the house wanted her to stay there, like the house was keeping her there. I mean, I really feel like that's not weird, though. Did Kathy ever consider that she's just an introverted person? You know? Like, who doesn't want to stay at the house and lays around all day? I think Kathy's just lazy and needed a fucking excuse. Debunked. But another weird phenomenon from within the house is its supposed effect on the physical bodies of its inhabitants, right? So basically what I'm saying is at one point, the Lutz claimed that the house was appearing to age them physically. Like at one point, George turned around to look at Kathy, and it appeared as if she was some disheveled old hag. And she even claimed that at times her hands would appear wrinkly and frail. So, like, this wasn't just, George seeing this kind of stuff. Like, even Kathy claimed to see an old woman's face one morning when she looked in the mirror. And even, they talked about, like, they were losing weight. Kathy was frequently passing out throughout the day while in the house. So, lots of weird stuff happening at the old Amityville place. So, we're moving on to Georgie Boy right now. Right? George Lutz, right? It's a pretty interesting story within the house. Like, lots of weird shit happens with this guy, right? We're kind of going like this whole Jack Torrance from The Shining thing. I hope most of you get that reference. Like, he just becomes this completely different person, and the house had this really weird effect on him. So, firstly, he starts to seclude himself from the family, and he starts obsessing over the fireplace specifically. And he's like constantly putting like fuel in it, and he's saying that no matter how hot it gets, it's not keeping him warm, it's not producing any heat, right? So he's just, spouting crazy shit. And it was all reported that at this time he was becoming more and more abusive. The children were arguing more than usual because the house was, supposedly taking an effect on them as well. And because of these arguings and, the effect the house was having on everybody, they suffered some pretty awful beatings from their parents. But one of the weirdest and, just most odd things that would happen with George is that at around 3 a.m., each night, he would be awakened for no reason. He'd be restless and he couldn't sleep, but it's always around 3 a.m., which, as you all know, was the time that Robert DeFeo murdered his family in that very same house. So, it's kind of weird. But backing off of George for a second, we're going to turn it over to the kids. The youngest child, Missy, would describe speaking to an angel, quotation marks, an angel, that was living in her room, and this angel, Missy claims, was named Jody, and Jody was able to present herself, or itself, or whatever, as a large pig to Missy. That's what her words, large pig, and would change shape and form at will now. It's already kind of weird, a little creepy, but just keep that in mind for later, okay? We're gonna keep going, but keep that stored away. So it was hard. It was actually really hard finding info on the haunting for this. You know what I mean? Like, everything I looked at, like every time I look up Amityville stuff, it would just bring up like the murder case and like, not the haunting, or it's like Amityville debunked. And I'm like, okay, nobody wants to hear that shit. You guys don't want to hear facts. You guys want to hear creepy shit. I'm just kidding. But I was kind of lost though for info on the haunting. However, Daniel Lutz, fucking son of the Lutz families, come forward with a metric shit ton of info regarding the haunting. So thanks, Danny boy, appreciate you. So get this right, stick with me. So Daniel's a firm believer in what happened in the house, right? Like, he, like, no dispute, believes it happened. Like, he knows and believes in his heart that all the paranormal stuff went down, but he actually blames it on George Lutz, right? Okay, because stick with me, because he said that George was dabbling in the occult, and so all that dipping into dark magic and shit actually brought the paranormal stuff to the house. What the fuck? Holy shit. So that kind of matches up with what I was saying, where like the DeFeo murders themselves, like nothing was super paranormal about that. Like there was nothing really weird about that. Because like some people try to make that paranormal by saying that like whatever haunted the Lutz is also haunting the DeFeos and it like possessed the son. I don't believe that shit. I think he was just tired of his parents or whatever and like just kind of went a little cuckoo cuckoo and fucking offed his family. But anyway, we'll get to the occult thing, the paranormal stuff in the house in a second. I'm going to go over another one of Daniel's eyewitness accounts, which is all right, so just stick with me here. Just listen to this, right? So one night, Daniel's sleeping soundly in his bed, you know. It's a nice, calm night. He's drifting off into slumber. All of a sudden, he jumps up, right? He goes to the window to see what the noise was, and he sees the doors to the boathouse opening and slamming shut over and over and over, and so him and George run out of the house to go secure the doors. Meanwhile, the family dog, Harry, is losing his shit, right? He's terrified. These doors, you know, they're scaring the shit out of this dog. So he tries to climb frantically over the fence, but his leash is still attached to him. So he starts unintentionally, like, choking himself. And some people, you know, said some shit, like that the dog was, like, trying to kill itself or whatever, which is just bullshit. Let's just call it what it is. It's horse shit, okay? Just horse shit. Like, I'm pretty gullible. I buy into a lot of paranormal and, you know, whatever shit. But, like, that's okay. Like, the dog wasn't trying to kill itself. Like, you don't have to throw that shit in to make it spooky. It's already spooky enough when you think about the fact that this dog is so fucking scared of whatever is making the boathouse door swing open that it has no concern for its own safety, that it's only concerned about getting out, like getting away. So you don't have to throw in some bullshit like that. Anywho, moving on. So after they get the door closed and they save the, you know, supposedly suicidal dog, they turn to go back to the house. Well, get this. Daniel and George both look to the upper floor of the house, okay? And what they see, you know, just Daniel says this best in his interview, so I'm just going to play that right here.
What did you see? What was in the window?
It would have been what looked like a cartoon character of an angry pig with like wolf-like teeth.
Right? Just like Jody, man. Just like Jody. And this wasn't the only time that this was seen, okay? So George and Kathy claimed to have witnessed two red eyes peering in at them from the upstairs bedroom window. Missy believed that it was Jody wanting to come inside. What? And when George and Daniel went to investigate what they saw, the only thing they found was a rocking chair in the attic moving on its own. Oh, all right. So, final straw for the family, though. Like, you'd think after all this shit, why would they stay, right? So, this is it. This is the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Final straw for the family came about one night when Kathy and two of the children were lifted up from their beds, right? The frames of their beds start shaking violently, and even headboards start smashing together. Like, imagine how just utterly terrifying this has to have been for them. So, they literally just eat the fuck out of there. Like, I mean, like sleepwear and all. They can just, they just fucking leave, right? And like, can you blame them? Like, I mean, honestly. And then they go to Father Pecoraro and are like, hey, so Father, what should we do now? And I'm assuming his response was something along the lines of like, I don't know, get the fuck out. Like, you don't think you need the father's advice for that? Like, oh, jeez. But this whole case is just so interesting. Like, literally, to the point, like this story caught so much traction, right? Literally, Ed and Lorraine Warren got in on this, okay? And for those of you who don't know Ed and Lorraine Warren, just, I don't know, watch the Conjuring movies. They'll tell you everything you need to know, but no. So, Ed and Lorraine Warren are these paranormal investigators, right? And they're really popular back in the day. Are they authentic or not? Fuck if I know, right? I'm not here to judge that. Some people think not, some people think so, some people think that they're just, publicity stunt or whatever. But anyway, at the time, there was some controversy with the case, right? So, like, at the time, you had stuff like The Exorcist and The Exorcism of Annalise Michel going on, and just all this spooky paranormal stuff, right? And, like, a lot of people were cashing in on it. Like, there were a lot of books being made, there were a lot of movies being whatever. So, like, there's, a lot of money to be made in this paranormal stuff. So, a lot of people think that the Lutzes fabricated this whole story to, like, cash in on the whole paranormal hype, So people believed it was a hoax and shit. But there are some things to know before we go jump into any conclusions, right? So the Lutzes were actually subjected to a polygraph test, and on all accounts, they passed. They weren't lying, which means that either the Lutz fully believed what was happening to them was paranormal, or it means that something paranormal was happening to them. So what's the truth? What do you all think? Are the Lutzes lying about their experiences? Are Daniel's accounts to be fully trusted? Is the story of Amityville a fabricated hoax for the sake of momentary publicity and monetary gain? Or is 112 Ocean Avenue truly a place of evil, where supernatural entities torment the living? That's it, guys. That's Amityville. That's the whole shtick, the whole story, right? And it's crazy. This case got, like, first of all, there's a book based on it called The Amityville Horror. You can read that if you're interested. It's a pretty cool book. It definitely plays up the whole paranormal aspect. You can tell that, like, I mean, even though George Lutz is like, yeah, it's a little exaggerated, but most of that's true. Like, some of it's like, okay, some of it's a little wild. Like, the flies, like, attack the priest, and, like, a voice yells at him to get out of the house. So it's much more, like, grandiose, and, you know, just they blow shit out of proportion. But anyway, there's also some movies on it. I've only ever seen the Ryan Reynolds movie, which I thought was okay. I don't know how people felt about it. Let me just do a quick search here. On Rotten Tomatoes, The Amityville Horror from 2005 with Ryan Reynolds has a 23%. So I guess not as good as I remember. I think there's like a 79 one. There's like a 1979 version that's like the OG Amityville Horror movie. So go watch that one if you're interested in it. It's turned into a movie review fucking podcast, but no, but that's basically all we have on the whole Amityville stuff. So thanks again, guys, so much for tuning in. Once again, what do you all think? I think people are like scared to leave comments or something, but definitely leave comments on videos. I do read them. I do try to respond to them. So what do you guys think? Would you live in a house that someone had previously been murdered in or died in, or paranormal stuff like that? Or would you say fuck it? And what do you think of Amityville? You think it's a hoax? You think that they just drummed it all up for some money? Or do you think that something spooky may have actually been going on? But whichever it is, feel free to comment on the videos or the whatever platform you're on. I do like responding to stuff like that. But I know it's been a while since I uploaded. I'm trying to get back into the groove of things, guys. So I should be getting back into the swing of things here soon. I think I'm going to do a Christmas special before I get into season 2. So look forward to that. But what a finale, huh? We've had a good season. We've had a good run. Thanks so much for coming along with me, guys, and helping me make this thing possible. So thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good one. And above all, stay weird, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Until our next terrifying tale, dear listener, this has been The Void Frequency.